Right.
Just
But
do
we
it.
were talking about, we were talking about the you mentioned like the breakdown before the breakthrough, or the what people call the crumble, the void, the break,
Yeah, yeah, the
and
quantum crumble or whatever. Yeah.
right, right, the death before the rebirth and all these things. And it's like, but
Mhm.
and it just when she was talking, it just clicked for me. It's like, oh, because she brought up postpartum too, how postpartum has shifted everything about her identity and had like really shook her in a lot of ways. And then she used it as a catalyst to like really catapult her into a new, whole
This
new.
was your podcast interview for last week, right? And it's already published.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, I need to go listen to this. I'm like, yeah, that sounds
It's
like a
it's
good
a good one. And
conversation.
like I
I need to listen to this.
said, it was so surprising because we weren't planning on that, right? But
Right.
like
It's
what
always
came
fun.
through, I was like, oh, it's just like Glass Daddy, he has it.
I
It's
will.
just like birth process, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, because like we are when I'm in a labor room with a mom who is laboring naturally and she's like working so hard and like pushing and all these contractions are coming, coming, coming. There almost always there comes this moment where there's a break. We'll be having contractions like back to back to back, working, working, working. And all of a sudden there's like this lull.
Yeah.
And almost always, because the room gets, a little bit quiet in between. And then she or the dad or whoever will be like, what happened to the contractions? Like there's always this like statement about
Yeah.
it.
What's
And
happening?
oh, and I'm like, and I know to say like it's okay. Her body is taking a minute to re-energize and to like get some energy because its next contraction is going to be so much more powerful because she was in this space of waiting, that in between thing, right? And that's what when she was like, oh, that's exactly what it is. It's not that it's a bad thing. Can we reframe that conversation? Because in fact, it's a space where you're re-energizing and you're re-nurturing and like you're about to take off, right? And so I think it applies like all things do in life and nature, like it applies to life, right? And in these kind of things, when we are going what we call a void or a down moment, it's like that pull back before you take off, right? And
Mhm.
instead of fighting that pull back or that void, can we not just rest in what it is and allow it to do its work that it's supposed to do, knowing that we're about to like take off and use
Yes.
the catalyst?
Oh my gosh, like this conversation, I'm like, yeah, here we come to talk about banking, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love our conversations, Hannah. Like, and that's,
Oh, okay, hold on.
oh gosh, no, you're
No,
good.
go
You
ahead.
need to take
Sorry,
care of
I'm
it.
flexing and
No, you're good, but like, it's such a good conversation around like, the cycle and like then the birth and rebirth and death and all that, because it's like, I mean, it's in the seasons, right? Like, I was just kind of reflecting on that yesterday too, where I was like, yeah, each
That's it.
season
It's in the room.
has what it's, what like the highlights of the season and what it's going, meant for. And so, we all have our seasons, and then of course as women, we have our cycle, and it's an interesting world. It's an interesting life. So
It's an interesting life, and can we
it's interesting.
embrace it and use it for the power that is? Because there's again, like we meant, there's nothing wrong with us. This is how we are created. So why are we fighting the creation? Can we not work with that process and see it for the power that it is, so we can use it as a
Yeah.
cat?
Yeah, it's like capturing, yeah, or like, yeah, just following the cycle and knowing how it works. Like, how do you work? Because, I
Yeah,
know for women, especially, I mean, obviously, we have, that menstrual cycle. And so I think, and every woman seems to be a little different with that, how it affects her. And,
and
um,
different the life how it affects.
yeah, and at different
Yeah.
places in life. And so we're all on this different cycle, but I mean, we all kind of share this, aspect, which is pretty cool, actually. And it's funny because growing up, I don't know how it was in your house, but like in mine, and it's not trying to like demonize my dad or my brothers or anything, but there's always this attitude of making fun of like, oh, you're PMS
Mm.
thing, you're grumpy,
Mhm.
oh, you have an attitude today. Oh, it must be your period or something, just like, and
Right.
kind of like a little bit of,
A
but it
little
was
bit of
negative.
mocking fun, right?
Yeah, and it's hurtful, and it pissed me off, and I'm like, hey, like, I don't care how playful you're being, like, that pisses me off. And so it's like, let's not treat this that way. Like, basically saying, oh, well, you're acting this way, so it must be that. And it's like, you don't understand. In fact, most people don't. A lot of women probably don't even understand, like,
Right.
you know? And so it's like, but yeah, it's like number one, stop treating it as a stigma and a bad thing. And yeah, start looking and start paying attention to the natural rhythm of it and how can you harness it, kind of like you're saying with like birthing, like all of those contractions and stuff, how it's like it's building. And gosh, I mean, then we can even look at like the birth of a business in life, like with the work
Right.
that we do and stuff. And
It's an
you know,
analogy. It's like,
it's an
oh,
analogy. There's a pattern in everything.
Intelligent design. Exactly.
A pattern in everything.
So
Mm.
should I hit live stream so we can get going? I'm glad
Why
we
don't
got.
we just hit live stream? Exactly. And then we'll just like start going because I'm like, I love what you have in chat one here, the quiet wealth shift. So
All right, let's do it. Um, we may have a toddler join us. We'll see how it goes, but
I
we're gonna.
love it. Willow is always welcome.
All right, let's see. Hi, sweet girl. Right, where is my? I gotta put it in the
And
name.
actually, I mean, kind of what's crazy to me too is even what we're just talking about right now, like with all this, I feel like it relates.
It relates,
It's
right?
making me laugh. I'm like, oh gosh, this is a great
A
conversation.
100%. Like it's so like we laugh about, like you just said, right? Because it's like, wait, what? Really?
So
Like,
connected.
yeah. But yes, because in fact, nature does reflect itself over and over and over again. And it's so
Mhm.
powerful. All right, why is it trying to open up all of this? I wanted to open up,
It just happened. Let's see.
opening up in the wrong browser, but that's okay. We're gonna
Yeah,
get it.
as long as you're not sharing the audio, it should be good on that count. And then I'll just here, I'll check on your page too as soon as see when it pops.
And it probably will share the audio for a second, so I'm gonna make sure that I close out the ones. I only have one open, and then I can get
Okay.
that one pretty quick.
Aha, I do see preparing live stream, so I think it's up. So let's just confirm. See what we got going on. Ah, says you are live. Let's confirm. Oh, I'm gonna give us our first heart, why not?
All right, I see it too. Yay. Let's send up another one. Okay. All right. Welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Happy first Monday of the new year, 2026. What is that? So,
Yeah.
yeah, cannot so hard to believe it. I say this every year. I'm like, oh my gosh, how are we at the new year? And yet again, here we are. How are we at the new year?
Lordy, Happy New Year, everyone. Yeah, like it's so exciting to be in here. And I'm just like, gosh, let's just continue the conversation we were having, Hannah. Like,
I
I
know.
mean, it's so funny. Okay, like I just think that this is so pertinent to like what we're talking about here because we were talking. Okay, so like we're talking about kind of like natural cycles and stuff. Women, you know what we're talking about. And so like with the cycles, like birth, rebirth, death, all that, like just all of it. Like there's cycles, there's patterns and everything.
Mhm.
And we start talking about like reframing the conversation and how sometimes things get associated a certain way and we get used to things and then we talk about it that way. And then it kind of becomes taken for granted that it is that way when it's not
Mhm.
actually that way. And so anyway, I guess
Wrong
just
on people. I think that's part of it too, right?
yeah.
Uh, because we could also, if we had the right label on it, it's not that it's a bad thing. You're just accepting it as it is. But I think when we
Mm,
typify something as something is wrong or something is bad, as opposed to understanding it's just a natural cycle and the strength
mhm,
of that is
mhm.
actually really powerful. And how nature and life is such a picture of itself over and over and over again, how it flows into when we're doing things like even business or talking about wealth or things like that. We apply the principles of nature and how life works, the cyclical rhythm of a lot of things. There's a lot of strength we can pull from that and utilize in our lives.
Yes. Yeah. And I love what you say there is, not framing like again, talking, okay, we're just, straight talk, menstrual cycles, ladies, right? Like traditionally, it's always been treated as like, okay, hey, go hide yourself. This is negative, whatever. Like, and it tends to get treated as like, oh, you're crazy. Like, and it's not great. And then, and it's kind of like, that's not true, actually. It's just part of the cycle, And so it's kind of like, hey, why don't you learn how to harness your cycle? And it's okay. Like, it's just different. So it's just kind of different states of being. And like Hannah's saying, there is a pattern in everything in life, and the seasons reflect it. And then, gosh, even like stepping into this new year, we're seeing a very different energy, right? Well, I don't know if we're seeing, like we're feeling it. Like I think most people kind of feel that new year energy where you're like, oh man, anything's possible. Like I get to change, and it's kind of like letting go of the old and with the new. And so, which I think is pretty pertinent to what we're talking about today with the wealth shift happening.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's
Hmm.
that collective energy of like the new happening, kind of closing out the old and that new
Hmm.
happening. Because again, you can do a restart at any time that you
Yes.
choose to do that. That's always in our power. thankfully. And I think that's one of our big things is the ability that we have to make a decision at any moment and in time to change things. However, there's something really special and powerful about this collective energy of the whole world kind of doing this, like, oh yeah, we're closing out the one and starting into the new.
Mhm.
And there's something really special and powerful about new beginnings. Why is it across everything? Like we all resonate with that in a way, big, small, whatever, right? But there's that like energy of like the new coming in and the anticipation of new things and the expectations of like new, like, being so eager about new things happening and new possibilities available to us. And yeah, I love how that is kind of applicable to what we're here to chat about today is like the new era or the next era of wealth and wealth building in
Mhm.
our chat series that we're doing. Now it's kind of that shift that is happening that we're seeing, that we're feeling happen right now in wealth and how to build wealth and in what's happening with finances and what's kind of coming, I think, fairly quickly down the pipeline, not really slowly, that we're it's no longer like a maybe, like, we've talked about this before with cryptocurrency and how things have shifted and changed over the last few decades with it, how it was a absolute nothing burger and was completely mocked and or vilified, right? And now it is not only a very real, pertinent part of finances, it is kind of the next thing coming. And I think it's we've chatted about this a lot, and what we're so excited about with the WeFi project, but is the merging of the two, the old system of fiat and traditional way of doing things with this new way of doing things with crypto, and how to merge those two. And that next way of coming is so exciting. And it's a new beginning of things.
It is. I like it. And so I guess just for kind of a bird's eye view for a moment for our listeners and everyone coming in, and we'd love to hear what you guys think. We're talking so new era wealth, and what we're talking about especially here is a shift, a kind of a quiet shift that's been happening in our wealth structures,
Mhm.
and especially in the systems that we use to manage our wealth. And so in this case, especially we're talking about banking.
Yeah.
And I know that Hannah and I have probably both seen the article that you saw from Abu Dhabi Finance Week, that the CEO of WeFi that he published in there and stuff. And so it's actually a really cool article. And what
Yeah.
I liked about it was what he was talking about in terms of banking, that what this is built on, or it's being built on new rails, which was kind of an interesting way of talking about it for me because, old banking is built on different rails. It's built on, kind of a almost a hand ledger. It's more offline. It's a
Yeah.
little bit more, I'm trying to think of like, I don't want to be negative, but but it's a bit slower and it's a little less efficient.
Right. It was the well, I mean, on like even before it was gold, right? It was like
Yeah.
hard, like things you could tangibly hold, gold, silver, like jewels, like that was the currency, right? The way of doing things. And yeah, that took time and effort and everything to shift a fortune to somebody else, right? Or things like that, right?
Yeah.
And then fiat, paper, we all well, okay, we all, I am, in my upper 40s, so I do remember like going to the bank with my parents and having to like wait in line to cash checks and to deposit
Mhm.
money. Like I remember doing that with my dad. He'd get paid, we'd take the check to the bank to cash it, and I remember being in these long lines on Fridays to get
Yes.
to do it, right? And then started going digital, right? I mean, I distinctly remember that shift from, balancing the checkbook at the cash register, like my mom did all the time. Like I knew how to balance your checkbook, to shifting to debit cards, right? And like,
Mhm.
and that was a big shift, right? Like, because it was no longer, it's like tangible things that you're handing over in cash or, gold, whatever. But all of a sudden you're swiping a card. And that was a big shift to like how to manage that, right? Because it's no longer you're seeing something, it's just it became digital, right? And then even more so, it became more digital, like everything's online. Like now you just hit a button and send money places, right? Um, and that took decades, that took, decades, hundreds, whatever, to like get to this point. And now I feel like cryptocurrency has really upgraded that a lot faster, and things are really, really shifting now, but like it has, like there's still the two, like merging the two has not become such of a thing. The ability to like go back and forth, whatnot. And that is what that I think is what we're so excited about, like that new shit that is coming, that next era of wealth and ways of using our money.
Yes, ma'am. And so I love that. Like I don't know, that was kind of a cool progression that you talked about there, just in terms of like kind of almost like the modernization, right? Because I can remember that too, like going and standing at the bank, it was a big deal, go to the bank and cash a check and stuff. And then I remember when my bank was, oh, you can actually deposit your check online, take a picture. I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's huge. And then I'm like, wow. And so now like moving here into this, when you go purely into the crypto space, it's a lot different, and it can be a little paranoid. And I think what I like about WeFi, this, different kind of bank where it's decentralized on chain, they're actually kind of bridging the gap between the two because, in terms of talking about systems kind of updating here and getting more modern and just things changing, which can be kind of scary to folks because, here we have the older system, which is very regulated and a little bit more bogged down. It's takes longer. It just kind of is. But then you also have this crazy new, crypto space that, is awesome. I don't know that crazy is the right word, but it's very different. And so I know certainly for people, they're like, I don't know anything about this space. Like, what do I do? And so WeFi comes in and decentralized on-chain banking is essentially bridging the gap between the two worlds. And so that's largely what we're focusing on here. Um,
Change architecture beneath
Changing
half.
the architecture. Yeah, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, Hannah, kind of maybe like what's precipitating that? Why is this shift happening? What's behind it? Because, new technology is one thing. These things come about for reasons though. Like
Yeah.
what's shifting, would you say, maybe in attitudes and like why we're going towards this?
Well, I think there's some quiet kind of friction that started coming in because it wasn't always, it's not, and this is generally how things work, right? You may have like a big fireworks moment,
Mhm.
um, but there's a lot of small, subtle things that start happening that you start feeling it, right? You start feeling that like subtle kind of shift of things and constraint that happens, like rules changing with that explanation, transfers taking longer because it has to be verified, or your access became conditional. And that I think actually happened for me. I saw it a lot. And for a lot of people in my circles, we saw it a lot happening during COVID and the aftermath of it, when it became almost political to be able to access money or get paid or whatever. And it
Yeah.
would, depending on your stated beliefs. And I think that was actually a big moment, but a lot of people felt it, the things that were happening, right? Because centralization of like these systems, like the digital, like being able to do your online banking from your phone, it was really convenient, right? um but because of that centralization of all of these things, it also gets a little bit, well, I wouldn't say fragile, but also like you said, it regulated, right? And like access to your own money being controlled by other people, that felt really sticky.
Mhm.
Really kind of like, it just felt a little off, maybe, I think. And I think that's when people really started understanding that centralization, yes, it did solve some problems. It made life easier because you can literally cash your check from, or deposit your check from your phone, whatever. But it also, the trade-off for that was dependency on these big corporations or systems or whatever, right? Um, so it worked beautifully until it doesn't, right? And who feels it first is usually individuals, small, like you and I, whatever, not enough to make like a big wave, but for you in your life, if you're not able to access your money, if your money's getting frozen because they have to like verify it for a while, because I definitely have seen this and heard this, like for entrepreneurs and things like that, not being able to access their money for months sometimes because it has to run through like checks and verifications based off of who knows what. That didn't feel good, right? That's that bumping into the friction here and there. But single points of failure are mathematically unavoidable in a big system, right? And we all know that. So I think access to our money and the ability to control it, and transparency, like that became a really big need slash desire, for the individuals, like being sovereign in your own life and your own finances. That's a big deal. And being able to access your funds and things like that and control it became a really big deal. And it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal as things, become more and more online. Um, and so then I just, and that's kind of a little bit of a ramble there, but I really feel like WeFi is bringing together this beautiful place, or DO banking, right? That's the term for it, started by WeFi, Because there will, let's be honest, there will be other ones that come up who are going to jump on this bandwagon and start making more options for it, which is not a bad thing. Wi-Fi is just the
Mhm.
first one doing it, and they're
Mhm.
doing it really, really well, and it's really, really exciting. But other people will be doing this as well as it begins to take hold, right? It's just like any new thing that comes up in the world, new industry and things like that. But the ability to merge both your traditional way of doing money, the fiat money, right, with the ability to access and utilize crypto and control your own access and money to it and hold it, safely, securely. I don't know about for you, but that for me, that's a big, big deal.
Definitely. Gosh, well, I love what you're saying, like, because it did remind me just even this last fall, I was traveling abroad and I had a couple instances. In fact, I mean, my friend Anna Marie, like, it was tough for her because she actually did get locked out of one of her accounts. And so that, I mean, you know, good, thank goodness that like her and I were traveling together so then I could help her. But then I even had trouble, like, mostly before the trip, just trying to get access and, like, just trying to buy plane tickets on the other side of the world. It's like, well, this is, through AirAsia or whatever. And so my bank's like, why are you buying tickets through AirAsia? Right? And I'm like, why do you care? It's like, and I understand that a lot of it is born of security and protection. And so I think a lot of it's in the name of that. However, it also gets messy because then it's like, at what point is that an overstep? And you're just like kind of controlling me, my spending habits. It's like, ah. And
Yeah.
so there is some balance there that I think does need to be, continued. Like, you do want to have, privacy, you do want to have, but then you do want to have some of that security features. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of scary. Like, I remember being in Thailand and being like, oh crap, I can't buy this. Like, oh, I need to use my card and I can't. Like, and when you're in a foreign country, like, that's really scary that you can't access your own assets. And so, and I'm sure, other people have had even more crazy experiences with that, but it's like we want to have access, we want to have control of our assets. And so, um, I think that's where a lot of this comes from. And then, of course, as we have these new technologies available to us, it's just creating new opportunities. And so, Deo banking is kind of an interesting new possibility here because it's taking, I think, the best of what traditional banking has, but it's putting it into a new format that is going to be a lot easier, I think, for people to, number one, participate in because I mean, I know this conversation isn't even focused on the fact that, hey, we've probably got what, a couple billion people that are still unbanked. I don't even know.
Right.
I think by some estimates, I thought I saw like somewhere that someone kind of roughly estimated maybe 20% of the adult population in this world.
Wow.
It
Yeah.
doesn't really have access to,
Banking.
banking.
Yeah.
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 And so, I mean, gosh, like, we could even, yeah, could go do a whole conversation around that. But it's like, anyway, but there's just new
Because
attitudes coming around.
right. That's so interesting you brought that up because I think that's actually a really important point because
Yeah.
access to options means um I want to say it is a big thing for wealth and the ability to have wealth, right? Because if you can't, income doesn't really matter if you can't use it freely. And if you don't
Mhm.
have access to options, where you can move your capital, how you can keep it, under what conditions. But people with more access have exponentially more options, right?
Yes.
Right? Because you can make the same amount of money, but if you can not do anything with it to make it grow or whatever, have your money work for you, what does
Mhm.
that matter, right? Because it's just sitting there doing nothing for you. Like that's not how you build wealth.
Right.
And if you don't have access to banking and banking options, loans, et cetera, it's really I want to say you can't actually build wealth truly, right? And I'm sure there are some ways to work around that. So I'm not saying I'm the end all on that conversation, but I think for the majority of people, having access to banking services is necessary for building true wealth.
Hmm. Hmm.
And there are a lot of reasons why that you might not have access to banking um, in throughout the world. Like you said, 20% of the population, that's a significant number.
Yeah.
But I think that is one of the big things I really like about Wi-Fi and their mission is that there is to offer banking services to the world through a phone, an app, right? Like you have that power, and that's a big, big deal.
Yeah, it is. And I love what you're saying. And one thought I had, I mean, I would love for people to maybe share what does wealth mean to you?
Mm,
What does wealth look like for people? But I like what you're saying about access and opportunities. It's, true wealth is about having opportunities and access, so that you can live the way that you want to. And if you don't have access to banking, Is it possible to have true wealth? I mean, maybe, I'm sure, it might be a little bit more clunky and all that, but it's like we do need to get access to banking for, those people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people are interested in nowadays. They want to have more options, whatever they want to do with those options, whether it's, stay at home on your, ranch and hideaway, whatever, I don't know, or, living in your cool,
Choices.
yeah, you have choices, or go live in a cool city apartment. I don't know, whatever it is your
Right.
life looks like. But it's like wealth really, I think, is about the, having choices, being able to live the way that you want to.
Right.
And things are shifting. And what's cool is we do have that opportunity with banking where it's leveling the playing field very
Mhm.
much for access. And so I think it's kind of cool because banking, so decentralized on-chain banking, it's mobile first, which makes it a lot easier. Now, of course, you can make the argument that, okay, well, not everyone around the world has, Wi-Fi or whatever. Like, you could cut
Oh,
off access. But that being said, it's a lot easier to access these services because a
yeah.
lot of the world, most of the world is
That's
able to get a
cell phone.
smartphone. Yeah,
Exactly.
and get on the Wi-Fi. So it's like, it may not be a perfect system, but it's a heck of a lot better than what hasn't been offered to these people.
Has not been working. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, it's like what, yeah, like, well, they just haven't had an option. So it's kind of like, well, hey, I mean, this is already better than that because it is an option,
Right.
that they can do, so hey. And don't even get me started on how it is also empowering women. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation that we
Yeah.
could talk about.
Yeah.
Um, and how decentralized on-chain banking also helps uplift female populations and
Strong.
give them more access because then they're not having to go through archaic systems that say that you have to go to your male partner for permission to access an account or set it up, which not being down on men, but I mean, we've got archaic laws that are still affecting women around the world. And
Mhm.
so this is also part of that shift in helping everybody be empowered in making the choices that are right for them.
Right. Participation, choice and participation, not being
Voice
dependent.
participation. Yeah.
Dependence is that necessity thing that keeps us kind of frozen or stuck, right? And when there's no alternatives. And I think that is something that we don't want to have happen. We want choices, we want options, and you can utilize whatever you want, but we want you to have the option to utilize it if that is a thing. Speaking of women, like bring that.
Mm,
Like, if you have, because again, most people have the ability to get a cell phone, right? Or
yeah.
smartphone, whatever. Like you said, we carry these things in our hand now, like around the world. Third world
Yeah.
country to like first world country. I've seen this, right? There are phones. There
Hmm.
are the ability to get to that. So if you have that, you have the ability to access complete full service banking through that. As a woman who is, has maybe, a small business that she's working from while she's raising a family and being, busy living a life, and, trying to thrive, not just survive, that ability to have the option of accessing banking services and a safe place to keep her money, what like that is life changing for potentially
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
her family, right?
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, it's, this just, banking, it's not a perfect solution, but it's a heck of a lot better than what has not been offered to people in the past. And so it's neat to see communities, especially because I think it's especially taking off in Asia and Africa, in a community like Southeast Asia where, you have some poorer populations and that's, it is what it is. And they haven't been given a whole lot of opportunities in the past. And so this is starting to help level the playing field. Maybe not perfectly, but it is doing that. It's giving access, it's giving choice. And so I think that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
which is also neat because it's also changing dynamics in general. I mean, we could even look at how, I mean, the world is becoming increasingly borderless. People want to interact. We want to be international. We don't want to be separate from each other. We want to interact. And so it's only natural that our financial systems start to reflect that and create the opportunity for us to live in a borderless world. So,
So
yeah.
something you said brought this up when I was thinking about it because I
Mm.
mentioned earlier, like our money working for us. Like, I want my
Oh,
money to work hard for me, and like while I am living life, I want my money working for me, right? In more than one way. That is definitely a way of building wealth. And speaking of like the access to the banking, right? Like with what with WeFi, with this geo banking option, like the money that you have is going to be, you put there, it's going to be bring up to 18% APR for
mhm,
a woman who is having a small business, and there could be a lot of cash flow going through it, but if it's not also working for her, it's not
mhm.
building wealth as well, right? So if she has the ability to put that money into this thing and get 18% APR off of the money that she has in there, plus being able to take care, like that is massive, right? Like compounding interest with your finances and your like wealth, like yeah, let's work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. Well, gosh, okay. And let's pivot this conversation again. Like, man, another punchy thing here, because we were talking the other day, Hannah, and kind of the slogan we came up with for this bank was, it's a bank that works as hard for your dreams as you do. So, you have created this wealth. You've worked really hard to, get assets into your life. And so why not go with a bank that's also going to help increase that and work just as hard as you are? And, it's not to demonize traditional banking institutions and all that because, to be fair, they've gone out. They've taken many risks, probably the original founders and stuff took a lot of risk. And, they took the initiative to go out and create these institutions. However, they're outdated. They're not sharing the profits nearly as much. I mean, no other bank on
Fair.
earth
Yeah.
no other bank on earth is sharing half of its profits with its users. And that is amazing. And so, and even just like you said, with 18% APR, which in the crypto space, like that's perfectly normal. Like a lot of people are like, that's impossible. And it's totally
No.
possible. And for Dio banking that kind of bridges traditional finance with crypto, I mean, that's huge. I mean, that's a massive market gap, right? That they're there that they are filling. And so it's just a huge opportunity in what they're doing there.
Yeah.
Um, and the way that they're doing it is just second to none because they're doing it the right way. They're also working with governments to actually get approved in the correct way so that then they can legally operate and do things and work with the traditional institutions to make it a more seamless transition to this new world of decentralized finance. And so it's very exciting to see what's happening here. So we're opening up access to all these populations and also creating even more opportunity with that because just on top of the access to banking alone, we're creating another financial opportunity with it where, hey, you get to grow those assets inside of there. And so, yeah, it is putting your money to work, and working harder, even harder than you do. And so that's what we're looking for. And it is just a massive tidal wave of opportunity right now. It's exciting. So,
The tidal wave, that's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, we're not anti-systems.
no,
We're
you're
pro
never going
op.
to get away from systems. You have to have systems.
Yeah, I mean, it's right. It's a thing. We need structure. We need all that. So yeah, we're
Yeah.
definitely not anti-system or anti-traditional banking, and neither is WeFi, right? Or Deo banking.
No,
Like
they're
that's
not.
the whole point is the merging of the two and being able to
Mhm.
seamlessly go back and forth across the two. Because
Yeah.
let's be honest, anybody who's in the crypto space, you also have money in fiat, right? Like, hello, you
Mhm.
haven't just stepped over into one side of it. And I mean, cryptocurrency really, it's only like what less than 10% of the population is in it yet, but it's already doing
Yeah.
billions and billions and billions and billions worth of transactions a day, right?
Hmm.
So
Right.
it's definitely growing, 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 and it's coming, and it's the new wave. But it also you've got to be able to merge the two.
Hmm.
So we're pro options. We're pro optionality. Is that a word?
Yes. No,
Wealth
absolutely.
has always favored the person or the people who can move between systems rather than being locked into just one.
Right.
And the principle hasn't changed as far as like how we're doing things. It's just the tools and the access are
Yeah.
changing. So
Yeah. No, and I love that. And I love what you brought up there because fortune truly favors the bold. It's just how it is. And the way to be bold, I think, right now is really through just be in the know,
yeah,
educate yourself. It's like,
educate yourself. Yeah,
yeah, it's like we're not here to fear monger because that's a waste of time.
yeah.
Fear doesn't really do anything good for just about anybody. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Like,
I mean, if you're running from a lion, it does
if
you
you're
good.
running from a lion, that's
Oh,
great. Yeah, exactly. Please run from the lion.
right.
Yeah, this
And
is
sense that fear. But
exactly. But it's like, go educate yourself. It's like, don't be afraid because it is new and different. And so I think because and it is very new and different, it's just a different way of thinking about things.
yeah,
But it's so doable. It's so learnable. And a lot of it, like we said earlier, like, Dio banking is really just kind of taking traditional banking, putting it on new rails and updating it and making it actually much more secure and also user controlled. And so it's really bridging, another gap there. And so
yeah,
it's just a much better opportunity. And so it's like, hey, you have everything to gain here. And you
and
want to, yeah, well, an early bird gets the worm. So it's like, hey, why don't you get in now? Because it's going to be a lot better now than waiting until later. And then at the last minute, you're scrambling around trying to figure out how this all works. It's like,
yeah,
hey, start learning about it now. It's actually very easy. And, obviously we're here, others are there, but it's like, hey, we're open for these conversations. And so it's like,
sure.
start educating yourself. Just start learning about it. Get curious, in fact, might even be the best way right now. It's like get curious. Just start finding out about it.
Because those who move now will definitely get the extra benefits from those who are moving now. Like I've brought this
Yes.
up before. I will always bring it up because I'm very like passionate about it. Missing out on Bitcoin and the opportunity. And so like a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to miss out on the next Bitcoin. I'm not going to miss out on the next Disney. I'm not going to miss out on the next, Uber, Amazon, whatever, what have you. Microsoft, what all the things. Okay, well, then don't miss out.
Mhm.
Right.
Right.
I think
Well, and
I've learned my lesson and I'm not going to do that. Uh,
mhm.
yeah. So anyway,
Well,
get
and sometimes those next wave opportunities are in places that you really wouldn't have thought of. I know
well,
for
that's always the case, I think, right?
it's always the case, right? And that's what makes it, I think, so beneficial when you are that, it feels like you're the lucky person. But I mean, there are ways to, get more informed and to like, make sure you're on those waves. But it's like, but it can be tricky. And so when you are lucky enough to be on something that you're like, oh, I see where this is going, then it's like, yo, jump on. But yeah, it's like just don't get left behind. It's like jump on there now and get curious and just be part of that because, it banking is different, but it's also a massive industry. I mean, that's trillions right there. It's like banking and then the financial industry. I mean, those are
It'll
trillions.
never go away. It's part of how we
Mhm.
do life, right? So it is a
Right.
massive, massive thing, and it's always going to be there. It's
Yeah.
just shifting how we access, like I said, the principles of it are always there. It's the tools and access to them,
Yeah.
right? And that's what we're getting on
Hmm.
board with, yeah. But that is
Yep.
that is why we created Next Era Wealth, right? Our Facebook,
Yes.
so that you can get curious, find information, because this is not about hype, urgency, fear, like you said. This is not about pressure, go, go, go. This is about getting information, space to think, to learn, to connect, community. Like I said, we're building a beautiful future for our community. It's going to be so much fun. We have so many ideas and things coming up, right? But
Yes.
in that group, in that space, is where we get to slow down. We get to ask better questions, explore modern wealth thoughtfully together and learn and grow, right? So yeah, I mean, it's your future self does, your future self deserves you to like take a second, get curious and look. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I love this so much, Anna. And again, we can always talk all day. But yes, it's like, so we do have that space where we can talk about new wealth and what's going on in there. And so I highly encourage you to join us. And then we do have, let's see, tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time. So we are doing an actual, like, more, I guess, just detailed overview of, in particular, WeFi. So we'll talk more about that banking project. So that'll be tonight. If you guys care to join us, just go ahead, comment, and we'll send you details for that or come over to our group. And then we'll have more overviews as well after that. But, get curious. Come talk with us. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, these wealth chats, I love having these and I think it's so exciting. I think next time we're going to talk a little bit more about what it actually means in this new era to own our money. And I think we kind of alluded to that a little bit, but
Hmm.
what does it actually mean to own our money in this new era? Because like I think again, I keep talking back to the shift that happened with during COVID because it was a shift. I really
Hmm.
recognize that like we all were kind of awakened to different things and we realized that maybe we don't actually own our things, we're just kind of using our things, right, as we're given opportunity and access to it through the people who we gave it to. So I think that we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about that in our next
Hmm.
wealth chat, because
Yep.
that's really important, right? Because you work hard for your money, I think, right? At least I know I do.
Hmm.
Um, though I am learning how to not have to work as hard. I'm learning how to work smarter too, and that's really exciting. So, again, these are things that we are talking about, we're discussing, we are learning about in our next era wealth community. So come and find us, come and join us, and get in on these conversations. But yeah, tonight we're having a real much more in-depth exploration of the WeFi opportunity, and you guys, you can't ever say that you were never offered this opportunity after you're here, you're listening to this, it's not an accident. So I encourage you, I'm not here to convince you, I'm here to just give you information and you get to make that choice, but I definitely would encourage you to get curious. And
Hmm.
I think that's really kind of the thing is be observant. This is not an alarmist kind of thing, this is just get observant and get curious, right?
Yep. Definitely. Ah, love this, Hannah. Well, thank you. I'll look forward to our next wealth chat.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so excited about that. And then like I'm so excited about tonight. It's going to be great. Um, And yeah, I don't know, you guys, like let's make 2026 the most fascinating experience for us, right? Like,
Yes.
make it awesome. Make it awesome.
Yep.
So anyway, that's just my little 2 cents on that. But
100%. It's early
again,
in the year. We're at the beginning, so you've got
very
plenty
beginning,
of time,
right?
but jump on now so that the rest of the year can flow even more. So grab your wave now.
Yep. So you guys, again, we'd love to see you inside New Next Era Wealth, and we would also, invite you tonight to come explore a little more fully WeFi. Send us a message, DMs, comment on here, whatever. But yeah, this is just the beginning. All right, guys.
Awesome.
Till next time.
Until the next time, much love. Enjoy the year.